Hello, world, and welcome to Ignited Fortitude podcast. This is episode 16, and I am obviously not Steve.
Yeah, people are going to wonder, like, what in the world? So who are you?
I am DeAnna, the wife of Bobby.
Of the Bob.
Of the Bob.
Hey, guys. So obviously, this is a little different. Steve is out.
That crazy week finally caught up to
Yeah, Steve's crazy week finally caught up to him. Somebody in his household ended up getting the Rona.
The vid.
And so so they all have to quarantine, and he couldn't be here. And let me tell you what, he's like, dude, let's find any way possible that I can be there, because he really, really wanted to be here. And so he's super bummed. So let's make sure that we're praying for Steve. You guys can keep him in your prayers. You probably are, because of his weeks that he always has.
I know. Every week.
But for sure, he really wanted to be here. And so we're going to do something a little bit different. My wife was very gracious in saying, hey, you know what? I'll help you with the podcast. That way you don't just ramble on like a buffoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I got to be that helper.
That's right. You got to be that helper. So thanks, guys, for the feedback on Will Owens' episode. It was great. A lot of people were like, man, I didn't realize all that stuff, especially those that knew him. And just a lot of good feedback talking about suicide and just how, something that sometimes doesn't get addressed, and all the things that come with it and the struggles. And so, so just thank you, guys.
I was just going to say, for the listeners, I just called my husband out. He has this fun little tick that he does, and he shakes his leg. And I just called him out because I saw him doing it. Is that like a nervous thing?
It's because I'm a drummer. That's why. It's like
So
always just got that rhythm
drumming?
going. No, I just always got that rhythm going.
You're bopping to the music in your head.
Let's get started.
Yes,
Let's
please.
listen to this. So,
right.
guys, we have a different kind of episode. It's just going to be DeAnna and I talking about some marriage things where God has brought us to, and just some things even recently. I know a lot of feedback is we like how real you guys can be, and a lot of times people are put up on a pedestal. Not so much a pedestal, but, you think, as a pastor, you don't have those problems, or as a pastor's family, you guys probably have an amazing, amazing marriage and everything's sunshine and rainbows. And you know what? That's not the case. The Bible does hold us to a higher standard, being leaders, and that kind of reels us in. I think that's why God put me in this position, because he needed you to keep an eye on me.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like
with
that problem child that you have. It's like, no, you know what? You're going to the grocery store with me because I can't leave you alone, because if you do, you're going to have a party and all kinds of stuff. And I feel like that's what the Lord did.
Yep.
So what are we going to talk about with marriage?
We are going to talk about all kinds of fun things with marriage. Grace and mercy and forgiveness and pizza. And we're definitely talking about pizza.
So as of recent, you had an opportunity to teach the ladies at a women's event.
Yes.
And you got a lot of great feedback. And and I got some feedback where husbands were texting me and like, bro, I don't know what your wife said to all the wives, but thank you, because my wife came home and she was like, I'm sorry for this and this. And he's like, so I don't know what your wife said, but just tell her thank you.
I know. Sometimes I want to say, I'm not sure if I'm in the women's ministry. I think I'm more on the men's ministry, because I get more of the compliments from the husbands versus the wives. The wives, I have to tell them, even you were there, I had to tell them, please do not throw anything at me on the stage. Yeah, so it's a little difficult. I come at it from a whole different angle.
Well, so what were some of the things that you said from the feedback that you got that really pertained to our marriage, where it was kind of a revealer of the reasons why you say that women kind of don't like hearing the message that you have?
So, for one, a lot of people, and this pertains to men and women, but a lot of people have stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And past stuff, childhood stuff, like just it's the hurt, the pain, the traumas, the things that they go through. And we don't ever get repentance or an apology or an exception of guilt, or we as people want somebody to take responsibility for our pain, and we carry it in this weight that, you can't measure the weight that we carry. And what we do is if someone hurts us or we have trauma and no one accepts responsibility, we put it inside of ourselves, bury it somewhere. And that causes us to react in relationships instead of responding, right? Are you checking my time?
Oh, no, I'm checking a timer so that we don't go like 2 hours.
Oh, goodness.
Didn't mean to.
So, we stuff it down and it becomes our stuff. It's the things that cause us to react, usually poorly in situations where it may mirror a specific situation that we never had someone take responsibility for that hurt and that pain. So it becomes our stuff. And we have nowhere to put it, and stuff piles onto stuff, and before we know it, we're stuffed with stuff, right? And the problem with that is we're searching for somebody to take accountability for what we've been through. And 9 times out of 10, if you've been on the receiving end of trauma, you don't have anyone, it's kind of like, well, it's your fault. You caused it. I didn't do anything. And for me, that's what happened, and I never got anyone to accept the responsibility for my pain. And so I then lashed out on anyone who would come near me, which is you. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry. And, when Jesus and I had our moment, it was so awesome for him to just reveal, like, are you kidding me? Like, I knew everything that you were going to go through before you were born. Like, every single thing that you were going to face in your life before you were even born, I knew what was going to happen. And I take responsibility. That's why I chose the cross. And that is why you are walking in salvation. Like, I took that. And it's so much easier to forgive Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be like, no, Jesus, I am not going to accept that. I won't forgive you for that pain. Like, of course, it's like, man, Jesus took responsibility for all that hurt. And Jesus is the one that accepted responsibility, died on the cross, and allows me to have freedom so I could let go of my stuff.
Right. And so obviously with the message of the gospel being so great is, he not only took responsibility, he's not the one at fault.
Yes.
Right. And you want somebody that faulted you to take that responsibility. And then here comes somebody in your life that's like, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'll take responsibility. And I didn't even do anything to cause that.
Yeah. But, and then you have to be careful with that too, because you can't take the blame for what has gone on in my life. So, because sometimes people try to be the one like, I know I didn't cause your pain, but that white knight syndrome that I really think you kind of have. But I mean, sorry. But, it's like, you can't take responsibility. Like, you have no power to heal. You have no power to redeem. You have no power to put me into a place of, wow, I can really let this go. And when I was in that place with the Lord and he said, let it go, like, this is what they mean at leave it at the cross. You know what I mean? Like, I was on that cross. I chose that cross for you. And you can leave it here and continue on. And it's freeing. I mean, it's you have more room for the Spirit of God and not the stuff. You have more room to search for how to heal yourself and how to now walk in that new being, that new creation of life. So, I mean, it was very powerful. A lot of people said that meant a lot, because I think even as Christians, even as Christian women, we still carry a lot of stuff, and we don't know how to let go of it, just because, we're born again and yay, we're in this, peaceful place and this joy. A lot of times we don't realize that we still have, hurt and pain and trauma. And, it's kind of, we're at that place where it's like, well, what do I do with it? Am I not a good enough Christian, because I still have that stuff in there.
And so what was one of the things that you said in there, and I don't remember if you said it in the last podcast when you were on, but one of the things in listening to you, talking to the women and telling them was, you were at a place where it's like, you had the idea that you were this amazing wife.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And so you want to hit on that?
Oh, you like that?
No,
huh?
I'm trying to say that. I like that. I think that was a powerful point.
That's all right. I'm very humble. I can take it. So.
I know you're so humble. You're going to write a book on humble and how I achieved it, right?
Yeah. And I'll sign a copy for you. Oh goodness. So I really was, by the world standards, by people standards, I guess, I was a good wife. Like I supported you in the 90 million ideas you had and, this work ethic that is unrealistic that you portray and throw out there to the world. And I was raising kids and taking care of the house. And, anytime you were like, hey, we're going to do this, I was like, yeah, let's go. I was your cheerleader. We've said that all the time. Like, I was your biggest fan. So everything that I was doing, right, made me look like I was this amazing wife. Like I wasn't cheating. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't going out with friends. I wasn't spending money. I wasn't, like I was a good wife, I thought. And I remember thinking, man, if I'm such a good wife, why is he so miserable? Like, why are we fighting all the time? Like, why is all these things? And I remember going, well, of course, it's because, he's the reason I have to raise my voice because he didn't listen the first 5 times. And, if he would just go the speed limit, we would get to places on time. And if he would use his blinker, like, I wouldn't have to remind him, like, I was putting you in the blame place for my raising my voice and, jumping right on you as soon as you walked in the door. Like, well, if you would have answered my call when I called you 5 or 6, 12 times, then I wouldn't have had to jump on you as soon as you walked in the door. And, that's, I think, where I was going wrong in the sense where, by like, if you ask, a different husband who has other situations, like, yeah, your wife's amazing, like, good job, and then it's like, oh, well, if you were inside of our home, it's not the case. Poor Bobby.
So what do you think in terms of, the realization of that and coming to reality where it's like, you had, and I think that's valid, and it goes for both ends, right? I could have thought that I was, and I did think, right?
Did you really?
Well, of course I did.
Wow.
Well, I wouldn't be, if I thought differently, I wouldn't be doing the actions or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and why isn't she appreciative of it? And look at how she's doing this, and I'm just, you know what I'm saying? And it's in the sense of, I had my own thoughts where I thought that I was locked on and I thought I was right.
Well, I think a lot of that too is they always joke like men speak French and women speak German. And so we're sitting here trying to communicate our needs and our feelings and stuff. And unless I know your language, I cannot understand you. And unless you know mine, same goes. And I think that was a big issue for us because you love in ways that I wouldn't expect you to, like, that's not my love. Like,
yeah, and that's not the way that you expect my love to be.
No, not at all. Like, you painted this, you always say, like, when you're dating, you're just lying to each other.
Well, you're painting a very different picture than what it is, right?
I know. So, you came off like romantic and thoughtful and, always like, oh, I just want to spend all my time with you. Like, you were the one blowing off, like getting together with friends, and they were your friends. And it was like, no, let's just stay in and watch a movie. And I'm just like, oh, this man is amazing. And then we get married and it was like, you're working on our anniversary? And you're like, yeah, I have to. So I'm going out, getting a picnic basket lunch and it's like finagling you to come to the house so that we can have a romantic, picnic on our kitchen table with a blanket and, and it's like, I don't want to be romantic. Like, I want to be romanced. This is not fair. Yeah. So I created a Bobby that I took bits and pieces of the lies you were selling me. And I created this phenomenal man. And it was way, way too many expectations. So I was going into this marriage thinking that I hit the jackpot. And I did. Like, I don't want you to feel like I didn't. So
I know what you mean. I know.
Yeah. But, I created this unrealistic husband. And when, you started showing me, this is me, it was a little bit, jaw-dropping, just to say the least. And then on top of that, same goes, like, I think with that, coupled with we didn't understand each other's language and what we were trying to communicate.
And then the stuff.
And the stuff that I had. I mean, you had your stuff too.
Yeah.
And I think everybody does. But my stuff was a little bit more, it was thicker.
I think it's just different. It's just the fact that you're bringing in your stuff and the way that your stuff affects your marriage or affects you. And again, wanting and expecting me to be the one that's going to
fix it.
Yeah, to fix that stuff.
Well, and a lot of times, men, I love you. I'm sorry. But you come off like, I'm here to save the day. I fix the problems. That's what I do. I'm a fixer. Give me anything and I'll fix it. And so we are the damsels in distress, Here we are, these broken little sweet girls that come in and you're going to sweep us off our feet and fix everything. And so, you portray that and you're just as emotional as we are. You just don't know how to communicate it. And not saying women know how to communicate it, because we don't. But I mean, it's different. It's a different way of communicating. And you get more beat up, in my opinion. I feel like men get more beat up. Women get more angry. Like, how dare you think that of me or put that expectation on me or, whatever. Men get broken. Like, it breaks your spirit. It breaks you, like, your drive and your goal. Like, we have the power to build you up to, conquer the world. We also have the power and the ability to tear you down. And it's even in the Bible, in Proverbs 14, number 1. I'm going to read it because this one was huge. And I don't like Proverbs often because
how convicting it is.
It's talking about fools and everything else. So, but this one like really stuck with me. And it says, the wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pulls it down with her hands. And we do. Like, it doesn't say men in there, it says women. And there's a reason, because we are very much, I'm going to build this house and I'm going to rip it apart. And that's what we do with our husbands. It's what we do with our children. It's what we do with ourselves. We're our biggest bully. And so that's how we build and how we tear down. It's awful. And I watched me do it to you without even realizing, but men internalize it. And you put it like, how the children's ministry, they get the little vest and they get their little badges, it's almost like every time you walk in and we start tearing you down with our words, it's like we're ripping off one of your little patches. Like, that's how I view it. I'm very visual.
Well, and I mean, even to that sense, like there was a time where you would text me something like amazing, like thanks for being such a, awesome husband and blah, 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 blah. And it was like all this great stuff. And I'm like saving the text messages. And then I don't know if you remember, it got to the point where it's like you'd say that and then something would happen and it would be completely like, I don't know, like downplaying it. You know what I mean? And it's like, he just told me like I'm a great husband, and then this is going on, and I even told, I had to tell you where it was like, you know what?
Don't send me those.
Yeah, I was
anymore.
like, stop sending me positive text anymore, because I honestly don't feel that, and it's like almost playing with my emotions, where it's like you're telling me this, and I'm thinking that that's what it is, and then in the next breath, it's like,
yeah, and it was because our communication was completely off, like. it's not what I was saying, and that's not what I meant, but it was what you were hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And same goes. Like there were times where you would say things to me and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I can't do anything right. I'm awful. I'm horrible, blah, blah, blah. And it was just what I was hearing.
And, like you said, the biggest thing is the communication, how we're trying to communicate things. And unfortunately, we have a tendency to always look at the negative, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, they tell us, with kids, for every, negative thing you say, you need to say, 10 positive to make that stick.
Oh, yeah.
So
are you going to tell them about pizza?
Yeah, let's talk about some pizza.
Let's talk about the pizza. Now I'm hungry.
So we had an incident, just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Less than 3 weeks ago? Probably 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
About 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we had some pizza at the house and we had plenty, and there was plenty of pizza. This is so silly. Gosh, just talking about it just like turns my stomach.
I love it. I think
know
it's
it does
great.
because it's on my bad. But, so we had this thing and we've been, we have some things that are going on in a sense where
tensions are high.
Tensions are high a little bit. It just not in our marriage right now, but just our in family and things that are going on with our children and some things that are adult children. If you have adult children, you're always worried about them.
They know exactly what you're talking about. All you got to say is, we have adult children. And they're like, mm-hmm.
And very young adult children.
Yes, there
right?
It is.
So, and one of our children came over with their...
We're going to leave it. Yes.
So, significant other, I guess you could say.
Friend.
Their friend. And so we had some pizza at the house, and I'm not very happy with the way things are going on the relationship and for one of our children, let's say. And so we had some pizza at the house. And
we don't like our daughter's boyfriend. There it is.
It's hard.
Just admit it.
He's yes. Anyways, so
pray for us.
Yes, and so they came over, and DeAnna's like, hey, you guys want to take some pizza? And I was talking, we had some friends over at the house at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I was chit-chatting and I thought, yeah, of course, let them have some pizza. Go ahead and get a box together and put it together and get some pieces and let them have it. Right. And so our friends ended up leaving the house, and Domino's right now has this delicious buffalo chicken pizza that's like super delicious. And
thin crusted is so good.
Yeah. And so everybody left. And of course, me, because pizza is my weakness, I go over to get a slice and it's like, hey, where's my pizza?
Yes. And you yelled that. I was in the bathroom washing my face, and that was what I heard from the kitchen. And I didn't respond because I was washing my face. And then I hear, babe. And I go, yeah. And he's like, you gave Lexi my pizza? And I was like, your pizza? And you're like, yeah, my pizza. You gave her the whole box? And I went, okay, I'm going to finish washing my face. The yelling across the house is not okay. So, and then I'll go in. So when I walked into the kitchen, he was very upset.
I was mad.
He was like, I haven't seen him mad like that in a while.
In a long time.
Now,
in a while.
So I know past issues, I would have went ham. Like I would have went, oh, it's your pizza? Let me tell you about that pizza. And I would have, even knowing, because I know that his issue was not about a pizza. It was not that petty. I know that the issue had everything to do with our emotions are very high right now. There's a lot going on in the situation. And Bobby has always been the most phenomenal dad, always. And he always puts the kids first, and he always puts himself last. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I'm tired of always being last, and I'm tired of watching my kids hurting, and I'm tired of, it was just his stuff was stuffed to the brim, and it exploded. And normally I would take offense to that.
Normally it would have been heated.
It would have went all the way up. But I knew 100% I wanted to hear my husband in that situation. I knew where he was coming from, and I knew it had nothing to do with pizza. And instead of attacking him and tearing down my house, I thought, how about I build it?
And defending yourself, not even just attacking me, right? But putting yourself in defense mode.
Yes, because that's our problem.
Yeah, that's what anybody does in that situation.
And so instead, I removed myself. I let him be angry because I knew we weren't going to get anywhere in that moment. But I did not respond. I was not rude. And we were closing everything down to go to bed. And we got into bed.
And we didn't speak.
We did not. No, I wanted you to cool down. I really wanted you to just breathe. I was fine because I knew what you were saying underneath your words. So I was good. And he got into bed, and I was praying, Lord, do not have him lay on the edge of this bed and throw a fit, because I'm holding it together, but I really don't want to have to get upset.
And typically in that time, that's exactly what I would do.
And you didn't, because the Lord made sure that this was going to be a teaching moment and not a tearing down moment. So he rolls over and is holding me. And I said, what did I say? Oh, I said, hey, before we go to bed, this is not how we communicate. I know that what you were feeling had nothing to do with pizza. And I hear you and I heard you, but that is not how we communicate anymore.
And yeah, anymore, because we've made such progress.
Yeah.
Such progress. And that was powerful. That was super powerful, because it wasn't, you could have said a million things at that point. You know?
Oh, and I had them.
Oh, I bet. And I was almost ready for it. Seriously, I was almost ready for it. And, and this is what's so important, because as you make progress, right. And just like, in counseling, you see the progress that couples are making. And it's like, look, if you're making a determination to not be that couple that came in here fighting and arguing and tearing each other down and all that other stuff, you need to not treat each other that way. And you need to come to the realization, like, okay, we realized what we were doing was wrong and we need to change things. And so when situations happen, although they might be similar to prior situations that you guys have gone through, you can't treat that other person the way that you used to.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to go right back to it.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, that has to, that doesn't ever come from both parties. Normally, it's one person that has to speak up and actually make the difference. And I tried making the difference by holding you. You made the difference by the way that you responded to me. Yep. You know what I mean?
Well, I needed to hear your feelings. A lot of times, you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be frustrated. And I think that's where a lot of marriages go wrong. I know for us, that's where we would go wrong. I am allowed to be dramatic, if you will. The problem is I'm not allowed to be sinful in that drama, right? And so I'm allowed to be overwhelmed, frustrated, even angry. And I can voice that anger because it's not going to do any good inside. So you were allowed in that moment to say, you gave away my pizza. I can't believe you would do that. Because the conversation continued in the kitchen. So you're allowed to do that. What is not allowed to happen is for someone to be hurt in that situation. Like we didn't need to have raised voices because we know how to communicate now. But also, I had to check myself because there's a reason why you felt you still couldn't come to me raw with your feelings. So you resorted to past behavior because of the fact you weren't secure enough with me to be raw and honest. And I have to accept that because of our lack of communication prior. That is why you felt the need to rage over pizza. And I have to accept that. And I have to make you aware that this is a safe place. And the only way I was going to be able to get through to you in that situation was to be different. And so I needed to recognize that it was not about pizza. You were not being petty Betty in that moment. I needed to meet you in your feelings so that you knew that I was connecting and you weren't down on the ground and I'm higher up. You know, yes, your raised voice and the way you approached it did kind of catch me off guard and it did hurt my feelings, but you were hurting. And at the end of the day, that's all I care about. I care about your feelings. And for a lot of men, that's hard. It's hard for them to express their feelings. So they get a lot of pizza issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it looks petty. It looks ridiculous. And us women are like, "Pfft."
Well, and it's what's sad is, guys it is hard for guys to communicate their emotions, but anger is the emotion that they end up communicating with.
Yeah. Well, that was my method of communication as well. So
yeah. So what, you said one thing, and I think that's what is the hardest. Accept the fact that the reason why I reacted in that situation, because I didn't respond to the situation. I reacted. So the reason why I reacted was because of
you didn't trust.
Because I didn't trust. And what's huge in that, with you saying that and realizing, is the fact that you accepted that.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where, if roles would have been reversed and me having to accept that, that's the thing that is going to that's going to hurt the most, right? Because it's like, dang, like she feels this way because of, the way that I handled the situations in the past, or the way.
Yeah, but don't dwell in that. Like, because a lot of time, pride, I mean, as amazing as I am, I'm telling you right now, like that's hard. Like, I'm not walking around going, every single thing in my marriage was my fault. I am awful. I'm not going to be ridiculous in my accepting of my behavior. I'm going to be realistic. And when you are able to be realistic with your exception of bad, like issues, I guess, and lack of good wifely duties, it puts it into perspective where I'm not going to beat myself down any more than I already do 9 times out of 10 in a day. You know what I mean? I'm going to just go, hey, my husband had to have a complete tantrum over pizza because he doesn't trust that he can be vulnerable with me because of how I behaved before. And I know that. I take responsibility for that, and I'm moving forward. And the only way I can change it is if I change my approach. And that's where my focus is. I don't want to dwell in the, yes, I accept responsibility and I want you to accept responsibility. Because sometimes you can get into a place where you're just like, I'm worthless. Like I'm horrible at marriage and I'm ridiculous, or, whatever you want to tell yourself. I don't want you to ever feel like that, because that's going to set us back.
Well, and that's false humility.
Yeah.
That's false humility.
Or, sometimes like my OCD, the intrusive thoughts are ridiculous as it is. And that's a battle in and of itself. And to top it all off with, man, my husband has to scream about pizza because he can't come to me. Like, that's just not another thought I need running through my brain, And so I just try to, in that moment, and we're going to go right into Proverbs 15. I'm like in the Proverbs, you know what I mean? And this is the book I like completely try to avoid when we're reading and trying to, work on our marriage, because I always feel like the Lord is like highlighting fool every time I read it. Like one of these days I'm going to go through here and count how many times fool is in Proverbs. I'm sure someone has. I'll just look it up. So in Proverbs 15, number 1, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And is that not the truth? And is that not 14, 13 years of our marriage?
Yeah.
We are very passionate people. And so we go back and forth and it's like, oh, really? Okay, well, watch what I can do and watch what I can say. Yeah. And it was very much tit for tat for a very long time. And I think now the Lord has cleared out my stuff and has given me room to just kind of grow some really beautiful, like, wisdom stuff that is not of my own. I'm not taking credit for that because I have no idea how to even begin there in the sense of meeting someone in their feelings, especially when you feel like you're being attacked for something you did. Because normally my pride would have said, he's yelling about what you did. You gave your daughter a pizza that he wanted. We had, let me just clarify also, we had like 4 full pizzas left over.
But there was not the buffalo
buffalo chicken was not there. Yes, I know. But
and what did I say? And I had even said, like, look, and when you were right, when you identified it and you're like, I know it's not the pizza. And I'm like, man, I'm so glad she recognized that because it wasn't, because I felt like I felt dumb for being a child. And really, ultimately, like, what do I tell the boys all the time? Like, look, what's the difference between a baby and a mature person, whether it's a mature kid or a mature adult? It's the fact that a baby doesn't have any control. Right.
I love when you tell them that because I'm just sitting there like, and the Lord will put you in a position this week where you're going to have
act
to
like
act
like a stinking baby. But that's ultimately what I was doing. I was acting like a child throwing a temper tantrum.
But you weren't.
I wasn't, but I was because
yes.
it was over something simple and foolish. Yes. And what did I say? Like, look, if you would have given them 3/4 of the pizza and would have just put a few slices of that in a bag, like, it would have been fine.
And I recognize that. And people are listening like, I cannot believe. And if this is all they fight about, then stop doing marriage counseling because it's ridiculous. But seriously, I heard you. And there's so many times in our marriage that I have to check myself because it's like, I'm just going through the motions. And you and I have set up this thing where our kids come first all the time.
Sure. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it's like, oh, Phoenix needs this and Diesel wants this and Lexi needs, like, right now, our daughter needs a dryer. And so her birthday is on Tuesday and I'm sitting here trying to figure out, we need to get her a dryer. And I know that my husband and I have goals right now, and we have been really, really saving money because we're trying to meet these goals that we have for ourselves. And I'm like, oh no, we're just buying her a dryer, and I have to check myself. And I know it sounds simple, but for the wives, that's what we do. And it's simple things and they're little, but when you start putting them together, you start to realize, man, I am really stripping him of him feeling important, of him feeling heard and felt and loved, and it's simple things like pizza, yes, that pizza, but it wasn't just the pizza. It's
because you'll do it in anything.
Anything,
for sure.
It's the dryer and the, and it's not a bad thing. Like, come on. I don't think anybody's going to be like, oh, DeAnna's an awful wife. Did you hear what she said on the podcast? She took a whole pizza and gave it to her daughter who's living on her own.
I'm going to be the one that looks like a total jerk. Yeah.
No, you're not a jerk. But I mean, and there's so many times, and I have to catch myself because I know I do it. I do it so much that you threw a tantrum over pizza. You know what I'm saying? So my advice, if you're going to take it at all, ladies, your husband's better not tell you to take it or else they're in trouble. But what I would recommend is just really check how many times you're taking away from him without knowing, even if it's in a good way. Like me giving my needy daughter who is probably starving. She's pregnant also, by the way. So just to put another nail in Bobby's coffin, she's pregnant and she was hungry and she hadn't eaten. And of course, the whole sob story and mommy tears. Of course, I'm like, take all the food I have. And to Bobby, it was like, well, you could have given her some of that pizza, but you should have saved me some. And it's because I literally do this daily. Like I am stripping away from him. And even in time, Bobby's like, man, I really want to talk to you about the stuff that's going on. And I'm like, can it wait? Because I got to do this stuff with the kids. And, he's like, well, yeah, because he's amazing and he loves the kids as much as I do. And, he lets me go gallivanting off to go do whatever with the kids. And then, I come home and then it's rush, rush, rush because our life is insane. And, then randomly 2 minutes before he is completely passed out in the bed, I said, "Hey, what was that thing you wanted to talk to me about?" And he's like, "It's going to have to wait. I'm too tired." And he falls asleep and it gets completely shoved under the rug. And I never get to experience that bonding time where I can hear his dreams or his needs or, something he wants to talk about because I was too busy gallivanting like I do. So am I wrong?
No.
Yeah, I know.
No.
You just look at me like, I think you're falling in love with me all over again. I'm just going to keep talking. No, I'm just kidding.
It's funny, but no, but it's hard. Marriage is hard, no matter what it is. And it's, and what's crazy is just, so there's this book that I used for counseling and stuff. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that they point out is, and this is because especially if you're having marital issues right now, you're thinking, you know what?
Even if you're not, I mean, every marriage needs this. Right?
Sure. And so you might be thinking, you know what? Maybe I married the wrong person.
Ooh.
And it's because it's like, our marriage is like, we recognize the fact like, hey, we're going to go through these problems. There was a time, right, where we were,
bring it,
and not too long ago, probably around a year ago, right, where we were having some issues, and it's like, hey, we have a good marriage. And you're like, it sure doesn't seem like it because we were in a very tough time.
I thought you were going to tell what I actually said.
No.
Okay, good job.
but it was a tough time that we were going through, and I was like, hey, look, it's okay. Like, we have a great marriage. And to the degree you were like, it doesn't seem like it. And it's like, no, because we're going to have these adversities regardless. Mm-hmm. Like, it's going to happen. But it's how we go through those adversities, And one of the things in this book, it's called Married and How to Stay That Way. The chapter is about unreal expectations. And one of the points that the author makes is talking about, maybe you feel like you married the wrong person. Kind of insinuating the fact like, if I would have married the right person, I wouldn't be having these issues. If I married the right person, everything would be absolutely perfect and there would be no issues. Mm-hmm. And, he brings back the whole concept of Adam and Eve. And if you think of Adam and Eve, you might be wondering like, did God want me to marry this person? Okay. Now let's look at Adam and Eve. Okay. Let's just for a second.
Let's go.
God creates Adam.
Yes. And it was not good. The only time it was not good was Adam.
And so he gives Adam a wife. And so here we go. These are the people exactly that we're supposed to marry one another. There was nobody else for them to be together with. Mm-hmm. Okay. So here you go. It is a God ordained marriage. Like, it doesn't get any more plain. Like, we might be wondering like, God, who do you want me to marry? There might be a single person. Who do you want me to marry?
Oh, I went through that. I want, we have our unrealistic expectations. I had them written down and I was like, he's got to have this and this and this. And God literally took a man, put him to sleep, took out a rib, made a woman and went, there you go.
And so this is exactly who he wanted to be with. Mm-hmm. And so this is what the author says. It says, however, did Adam and Eve have a perfect marriage?
No.
No. And that's why we don't have a perfect marriage today. Eve disobeyed God's command and then tempted her own husband to sin too. They both shifted the blame for their failure to escape taking responsibility for their own sin. Their marriage had problems and fell short of the glory of God, even though it had been divinely ordained. Mm-hmm. And so think about that. Like, if you're in a marriage right now that's going through a hard time, just think about that and just know that there is no perfect marriage, and it's the person that you're with. You need to accept them for who they are, right? And knowing that if God didn't want you to be with that person, he would not have put you with that person. There could have been 100 other people that you could have been married to that you didn't end up marrying.
Yep.
You did marry this person. And so God has allowed that and has given you that. What you do with it and how you live in that marriage is your responsibility, right?
Well, and you need to understand that I have a tendency to communicate the way I communicate. And I have a tendency to listen with the ears that I hear with and only the things that I hear. And Bobby has a very strong communication barrier where he will say things that sound one way, but he means it completely different. And so I'm mad before he even finishes the sentence, and it takes him about 20 minutes to re-explain what he's trying to. And once we get it down, it's like, oh, I should not be upset about this. And so you need to learn how to understand your partner's love for you. So Bobby I need time. Mine is time. I think if you love me, you'll want to be around me. You'll want to talk to me. You'll want to put effort into our relationship and make sure we're connected. Bobby's is work. Like, he works his fingers to the bone and he will do anything and everything. I will come into the kitchen and go, wow, you know what I saw? I saw this backyard and it had like this beautiful waterfall and this huge like green area and like a dog run. And it was just so beautiful. Next thing I know, Bobby is freaking out over a budget on how to give me a backyard with a fountain and a waterfall and a dog run. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he goes, well, didn't you say you wanted that? I go, no, I didn't say I wanted that. I was just saying I saw it. I was having a conversation. And he's like, well, I'm just here to give you whatever you want. Like,
so it's not so much that my love language would be work. It's
well, I'm not saying love language.
To provide.
Yes, but you express your love. So what would happen is I would complain that we weren't getting any time. And he's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean we're not getting any time? I'm here. If I'm not at work, I'm here. And it's like, yeah, but you're here and you're on your phone and you're taking phone calls and you're answering emails and you're doing stuff for the podcast and you're running around crazy. And we haven't said 4 words to each other. Like, you're my best friend. I need to talk to you. And you are like, but I'm here, And I was getting frustrated because I thought he would do anything to be away from us. And in reality, he was doing all he was doing for us. And that's, I think, where a lot of couples have, that miscommunication also. Like, I thought you were not hearing me and you were doing the exact opposite of what I was asking. And you couldn't understand why I was asking for time. Mm-hmm. So I had to understand that is your love. Like, you are going above and beyond for this family every single day, without fail, without sleep, doesn't matter. And I'm being ungrateful in all the work that you're doing and the sacrifice and everything by telling you it's not enough, right? Mm-hmm. And you're feeling like attacked, like, all this stuff that I do, because you had said all the things that I do is for you and you don't appreciate anything. And I was just like, are you kidding me? And so we're at a loss where we're speaking completely different languages at this time. And we're trying to figure out, where is he coming from? Where is she coming from? And what happens? Defensiveness. Yeah. And that's where I think you and I both would go wrong.
Yeah, and a lot of it is unspoken expectations. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm doing all this stuff and thinking that, hey, I'm doing and I'm providing and I'm doing what I'm thinking is right and what I should be doing, and because that's the way that I am like wired and that's what I gravitate towards. Yeah. And then my expectation would be like, oh, she's gonna like
throw a parade.
Yep, throw a parade.
That's what he wants.
That's what I'm thinking that it's going to be. It's going to be awesome. And then it's like,
thanks.
Well, why are you upset right now? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, this isn't what I expected. Yeah. And then the same thing on your end, and that's what's hard in a marriage. And you have to communicate those expectations and like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, or, just, hey, how do we want to spend our time? How do we want to do things? Or what is, our focus for, this month or whatever. and being able to come together and talk about those things and like, you know, okay, listen to you and listen to what you're saying and like, okay, but I can't do that because, you know, whatever or whatever. But having to come to a place where you guys come to an agreement and it's not I expected something different. It's like, okay, now we know the expectations.
Well, what's funny is now that we've kind of gotten a hold of our communication and our expectations, we don't have to express those things. Like, I don't have to tell you, oh, I need time, because you just show up and it's like, see, that's what I've been waiting for this whole time. And you don't have to, you know, remind me of all the things that you're sacrificing and all the hard work, because I am constantly appreciative of everything. So I just think it's funny. You spend more time and more effort and energy fighting for the things you want, when in reality, if you would just learn how to communicate and learn how your partner needs to be loved and express how you need to be loved, there is no work. Like, it's just, am I wrong?
No. It's
Like
for
I'm
sure.
saying.
It's for sure. You know what I mean? And you focus on trying to work together.
Yeah.
Instead of working against
And then you
each
can
other.
enjoy the small amounts of time that you have together instead
and
of
not fighting
arguing
during those times that you
Yeah.
have. Yeah. You know, and one of the big things is, you know, even from this book is you
What's
know,
the chapter on?
not expecting it's same chapter.
Same chapter.
The unrealistic expectations. You know, one of them is, into that degree, is like not expecting your spouse to be the one to make you happy.
Oh yeah, you definitely do not make me happy.
No, and we've both expressed it. Like you are not my happy. Like
I'm
you
not the root of your happiness.
Yeah, you're not the root of the happiness. And so in this section, he says, he talks about like seeking happiness from your mate is an unrealistic expectation.
Yep.
That can be very subtle, because it is very natural for you to want someone to love and to love you. But if you are unhappy or struggling in your own personal walk with Christ, your spouse will never make you happy.
Yep.
Happiness cannot be attained by direct pursuit. It is a byproduct.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You make me a lot of things. Happy is not one of them. I'm going to get that. Like, put up in our house.
No, but you know what? And it's like the Apostle Paul, right?
Yeah.
In Philippians, he's talking about like, hey, you know what? I've learned to be happy and content.
Yeah.
And it's not so much happy, but content in all things, whether it's in abundance or whether it's in scarcity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that comes from knowing what we have. Like, hey, everything that I have is from God. And what I have here, I need to appreciate. And if we did that in our marriage, and it's like, you know what? My spouse, I need to learn to appreciate my spouse. I need to appreciate all that my wife is doing for me, you know, and accept that. And it's like, you know, coming home and like you got the house all done and things are taken care of, and not just coming and throwing all my stuff on the counter and just whatever, you know what I mean? That's how I'm going to show my appreciation, and not thinking, you know, well, why didn't you do this for me? Or why didn't you do this? I was coming home and I was expecting to have lunch or something, you know?
Oh, but you do.
No, but you know what I mean? But let's just say, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just worrying about those things, you know, it's a byproduct.
Yeah.
You know, because of our relationship with Christ. And that's what I think most marriages, it's like, you know, my spouse is doing this and my spouse is like, oh,
Yeah.
hold up.
Let me just side note with that too, because Bobby does those things. Okay. So
What
like
things?
what the things that the couples come in and they're like, my spouse does this and my spouse, I still do those things. Bobby still does those things. Those things are still there. But the difference is we are so focused on the Lord and our relationship and feeling like I have to fill myself before I can pour anything into my husband. And if I am being filled by the wrong things, I am pouring mud water into my husband's coffee cup in the morning, you know, and I don't want him drinking mud, and nor does he want to drink mud first thing in the morning. So I need to make sure that from the place I pour, it is being filled with good things. And that's what I focus on in the morning. I need to make sure that I'm getting my Bible time. I need to make sure I'm getting my quiet time. I need to go to Jesus, and I need to vent off all the things my husband still does. And I need to get clear of that. And I need to get back into the game so that I can pour into my husband the things that he needs.
Yeah, because if you don't, and you're basing it off of me, man,
Yeah.
you're going to start that day. Yeah.
You're
going to
drinking mud, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, absolutely. And that's what this guy continues to say. He says, your unhappiness is caused by searching in all the wrong places and things that can never satisfy.
Yeah.
No person or thing can ever make you happy. If you unrealistically believe your spouse is able to make you happy, then you will begin asking for more than your mate is capable of ever giving you. You subtly begin to depend upon your spouse for your joy in life. However, this inner void can never be met because there is no physical or emotional experience that can satisfy the deep spiritual need you have. Only one person can satisfy the emptiness inside you, and this person is the Lord.
Amen to that.
And it's like realizing if I'm mad and I'm upset, if I'm gonna raise my voice and tantrum over pizza, I got to check myself and remember, hey, you know what? The fruit of the Spirit is love, peace, patience, kindness. And obviously it's going to be too late because I'm not going to realize that in those moments. But reflecting back, it's like, what's going on here?
Yes, and I'm not taking away from that at all, because you and I just had this talk not too long ago. Mm-hmm. It's okay for you to experience that emotion.
Oh, sure.
And that's where grace and mercy comes from my perspective. So yes, we need to be checking ourselves in our fruits. We need to be making sure that our spouses are not drinking mud water. Okay. Yes, 100%. But we also need to be on the opposition. We need to make sure that we are giving grace and mercy. I need to make 100%. Sure that I am meeting you in your feelings. I need to hear what is underlining instead of getting defensive, instead of getting frustrated, instead of going for the kill, because that's what I do. And I need to check myself and I need to say, okay, what is he saying? What is he needing? What am I not providing? And then go into an actual conversation. And I don't know what I was expecting when I came at you the way I did. It was uncharted territory for me, ladies and gentlemen. So I had no idea what was going to happen. I don't know if I was expecting anything per se to happen. I just wanted my husband to feel heard and supported. And I apologized for making him get to a point that he had to express his feelings in a very ungodly manner. And I had to take responsibility that, hey, he had to resort to that because he didn't feel comfortable coming to me any other way.
And I think that's, and listening to that, you weren't listening to what I was saying.
Oh, I've learned that over the years.
Yeah, you were listening to, why I was saying it.
I have a decoder ring.
Well, you were listening to, look, there was a deeper issue.
Yes.
And there's always
a
deeper issue. You know what I mean? That's why he says it in the book, there's a spiritual need. Mm-hmm. And if you can come at those things that are going on in your marriage with that lens, mm-hmm. And saying, okay, yes, this person's upset right now, or this person's hurt, mm-hmm. Like it could be a deep hurt. What is it that's causing that hurt, and realizing, hey, you know what, there's a spiritual reason that this is going on, and letting that be what's going to take care of it and solve it. I think for husbands, one of the things as we get ready to kind of close this out and
go get food
and go get some pizza. But to close, just some perspective on these things, especially for the husbands. In 1 Peter chapter 3, when Peter's addressing the husbands, he says, in the same way, you husbands must give honor to your wives. Treat her with understanding as you live together. Mm-hmm. She may be weaker than you are, but she is your equal partner in God's gift of new life. Treat her as you should, so your prayers will not be hindered. I know for me, that's one of the scriptures that I hide deep in my heart, and knowing like, hey, you know what? I need to be in an understanding way with you. Because if I'm not, my prayers are not going to get answered.
And you've done such an amazing job with that, because I was a hot mess. Like, I just realized by looking at my overview of my medical records for mental health, I have a lot more than I thought I did, as even of recent. And By the way, if any of you are looking for a really, really amazing therapist, I'm going to plug her because she is phenomenal. No, this is not sponsored. Her name is Claudia Chacon, and she is at Dr. Reed's office in Sierra Vista. She is amazing, and Dr. Reed is amazing. And it's because of them that I'm able to start the journey of being a godly wife and a godly woman. And I think that's also, I mean, especially with the podcast that we've had recently, just the mental illness and the addictions and the, it all stems from, your brain it's running 50 miles a minute. And it's hard to get a handle on. And if you have depression or anxiety or, any of the slew of things that I have, I guess, it makes it even more difficult to be what God is calling you to be. And it's not a bad thing to seek help, therapy, I need medication. And we tried to take it away from me. And we were like, nope. Get her back on the meds.
Well, I mean, and maybe we'll have to have another podcast with you to talk about that. But when I was talking about a year ago when we were having that tough time,
yeah,
and I said we have a good marriage, and when you were like, no, we don't, because we wouldn't be going through this. Like, DeAnna had gotten off her medication,
yeah,
and it really put an effect on us because you didn't want to take the medication because you felt like, I don't want to be on meds. Well, that was one of the reasons, you know what I mean? And thinking like, hey, I should be okay and I shouldn't have to take medication because of the stigma that comes with it. And guess what? Like, that really affected
it played a huge role.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you this because my husband doesn't understand. He's a Marine. He's a man. He's a dude. So it's hard because he didn't understand OCD. I mean, not a lot of people honestly do understand OCD, and that's a pet peeve of mine, by the way. But
because it's not about
cleaning, and it's not, people will say like, "Oh, I'm really OCD about this," and that drives me insane because I'm like, you have no idea how awful having OCD is. Yes, that is part of it. Some people think being particular about certain things, oh, I'm OCD. No, ma'am. I'm sorry to break it to you, but it is awful. And with me having OCD, it makes it very difficult to talk to my husband because he didn't understand. He would say things like, oh, that's all in your head. I know. It's mental illness for a reason. And he was just like, well, just don't think like that. If it were that easy, I would be amazing right now. No one wants to think and go through and deal with the things that I had to think and go through and deal with. And on top of juggling marriage and wife and church and, responsibilities, it made it extremely difficult. And as soon as Bobby started to understand me from a different perspective, it made it so much easier to confide in him and talk to him and go to him on days where I was just having a really hard time. And also I have an amazing mental health team. Like, I have people that I can go to. I have therapists. I have medication. I have my husband. And so it makes it very easy to go, okay, yes, I have these things, but these things don't have me.
Yeah,
right?
That's
yeah.
Right.
Big girl stuff.
That's right. But, and to that point, we have to, I didn't understand.
No.
And when I didn't understand, it made things more difficult and put more pressure on you,
Well, and it ruined our communication.
Oh gosh, big time. Because it's like, I didn't want to, I didn't understand. I didn't feel like I needed to understand. I felt like you weren't understanding.
Yeah.
And and it wasn't good. And so, just even letting scripture be my guide and knowing like, hey, you know what? I need to get this together because if I'm having issues in my marriage and realizing it's my fault, my prayers aren't going to leave the ceiling. They're not going to leave the room. God's not going to honor. And that's biblical. That's what Peter's saying here, And the big point that he points out here too is that your wife is the weaker vessel. That doesn't mean that your wife is weak and you are strong.
Yeah, because I can take you, buddy.
That doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? That your wife is weak and you're strong. No, it means that, guess what? You're weak and she's weaker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you need to realize that. And the reasons why you're going through as a man, like you're struggling with things, you're lashing out over something ridiculous like pizza, is because you're weak, because you don't have things together. And you need to identify those things, and knowing that your wife is struggling and has her own struggles as well.
Yeah.
You know, so try to be understanding. You know, obviously that goes for both spouses.
Yes.
You know, but you know, you need to be filled with the Spirit. You need to make sure that your relationship, this is ultimately what it comes down to, is letting Christ be the one that fills you. Don't expect other people to take responsibility for your stuff, knowing that God is the one that has provided his son to be the one that has taken the stuff, has taken that from us when he didn't need to, because he loves us that much. And, you know, we expect or we think like, you know what, I'm going through all this suffering and I'm doing all this hurt and getting all this backlash. And it's like, hey, guess what? You know what? Jesus met us in that suffering also.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's so powerful. Remember when I said, and you were like, what?
Yeah.
Like, he had to die the way he chose to die so that he could suffer at the same level as each and every one of us. The humiliation. Like, I remember getting upset because I felt like you turned your back on me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Bobby didn't have my back in this situation just recently. And I'm in my Bible and it's where Peter denies Jesus. And I'm like, whoa, bro. Like, that's a bigger situation than what I went through. And it's like, if you really think about how Jesus suffered, he went through so much and it's on so many different levels. So he can meet us there in our suffering. Like, he has suffered. And that's why we can go to him in our suffering.
Yeah.
And that's deep.
Yeah. So, guys, we're already just about the hour mark.
Yeah.
You know, we want to try to keep these. Yeah. She's hungry. We try to keep these short. So, hey, guys, we appreciate you listening to us. It was kind of like a
last minute ramble.
Yeah. Steve was going to be on talking about some, we were going to initially talk about grief, and hopefully he'll be ready to be here next week. And we're going to address some grief, some things that he had to deal with losing his dad. Not too long ago. Today, when this episode is going to drop on Wednesday, it's actually the year marker of his dad's passing. I think a year or 2 years. I'm not sorry, bud. I don't remember if it was a year or 2 years, but it's a marker for that, and it's a very powerful story, and that's what he really wanted to be here for. So that should be the next podcast that's going to come out, so not this coming Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. So guys, thank you. This was kind of a fly off the cuff, but we want to just talk about marriage. We hope that my fumbles with pizza and not being able to
you can judge him. It's okay.
Not being able to. Hey, you know what? You have that pizza, and then you see for yourself when somebody takes it all away.
Domino's. What's it called?
Domino's, but it's buffalo chicken pizza.
It's got onion on it too.
It's delicious, but thin crust. And but you know, and
I'm just trying to see, why are we not sponsored? Domino's, Dr. Reed's office. Who else did we plug?
But anyways, guys, we're gonna sign off. Hey, thank you guys so much for listening to this. We pray that it was beneficial. If it was, hey, always share it. If you guys want to reach out and interact with us, always available. You can reach out to us on YouTube, leave some comments, or even through the Apple Podcast. You can email us, ignitedfortitude@gmail.com. Do you want to shout out your Gram?
No.
Okay.
I like to be incognito.
Okay. So, but anyways, guys, there's always some ways to get a hold of us. If you even want to drop an email off at the Ignited Fortitude Gmail email, and if you need some kind of help or have something to say for DeAnna, you guys can drop it off there and I'll make sure that she gets it.
I'll get it.
So how about, since Steve's not here, you can pray us out since I prayed us in.
Oh, no problem. Father God, thank you for this opportunity, but thank you more for this marriage, Lord, and the work that you have allowed us to be part of, and just pulling the scales off our eyes, Lord, and seeing that we had some heavy work to do and that you were going to be with us every step of the way, Lord. I just pray that you continue to strengthen us. And anytime I want to replace a scale, Lord, that you be the first to rip it off and just remind me of the purpose that I have in this walk and how I am to help my husband and to love him and to be humble, which I'm working on. Father, we pray for Steve and we lift up his family. We love them dearly and we want to make sure that they are all healthy and strong and ready to come back, because I'm not sure if I can come and do one of these again. I think I'm pretty much kicked off, Lord. But I thank you for this time. I thank you for this incredible work that my husband has in his heart for the marriages and the families and the people in the world, Lord, and just wanting to get out there and reach them where they're hurting. And I love him very much. And I thank you for this amazing gift of a man that you have given me. I also ask that you be with these marriages that are struggling in their communication, Lord, or if they are struggling in the way they love each other, just give them peace and wisdom and bring them closer together, because their covenant is with you, Lord, and not humans. I love you and thank you so much for everything that you have given us. And it is in the mighty and victorious name of Jesus, our Savior, we pray. Amen.
Amen.